In the process, he talks about him as our high priest, and in chapter 5 of Hebrews, verse 7, it says, in the days of his flesh, he offered up both prayers and supplications with loud cryings and tears to the one able to save him from death. And he was heard because of his godliness, because of his piety. Although he was a son, verse 8, he learned obedience from the things he suffered. What? Now, we already know that his obedience was not learning obedience out of disobedience. That's what we do. We start disobedient and we learn obedience kind of in a way. We learn it the hard way. But it says he learned obedience. What's that about? How would you explain that to your kids or your grandkids who say, what does it mean that Christ learned obedience, Papa, Grandma, Mom, Dad? And you stroke your chin and you go, well, let's call Pastor and see if we can find that out. What would you say, honestly? If it can't mean that he came out of disobedience, what does it mean? It means this: by experiencing suffering for no other reason than because the Father said it was the right thing to do, he learned as a human being to trust radically the Word of God over the things he was experiencing. Now you say, well, did he really have to learn that? Oh, yes. And this was something the second person of the Trinity had never done until he became a human. And as a human, he did not have omniscience. I don't know how many people really realize that. We concentrate on the deity of Christ, rightly so, but we sometimes think that he had omniscience. He did not have omniscience while he was here. He only knew what the Father told him. He only knew the specific will of God as he needed to know it. And there are times, friends, listen carefully. We'll get into this at another time. I'll plant the seed right now. But he only needed to know certain things, and there were certain things he needed to not know. There were certain things he needed to not know. And God deliberately did not tell him. Questions about when he was coming back, for instance. So when it says he learned obedience from things he suffered, and when it talks about him saying, I have not come to do my own will, it really there's teeth to this. It really means something. What it means is that in the suffering that he experienced, what happened was he learned to live on the promise of the Father with absolutely no tangible anything in front of him in the sheer darkness.